Welcome to the Grow Your Practice podcast. Hi, I'm your host, Chad Madden, owner of Madden Physical Therapy and Breakthrough. Join me each week as we dive into the best practices, systems, principles, tips, and tricks to help you grow your private practice.
Hey everybody, today on this Grow Your Practice podcast episode, we have a very special guest back again. I think this is twice within 6 months, a year. Justin,
Yeah,
is that right?
that's correct.
So Justin, private practice owner, Orthopedics Plus in the greater Boston area. If you can do a quick intro of you and Mike in your practice, that'd be great, Justin.
Yeah, so our practice started in '86. Mike and I took it over in 2018, and really since then, the landscape of PT has shifted immensely. So we're trying to build a resilient organization based on principles and systems, and that's how we connected with Chad back in the day, and then reconnected with him again for profitability under pressure. And now I'm just kind of trying to surround myself with like-minded individuals that help us build the right systems and understand context and just adjust to the changes that are coming every which way all days now.
Great. So the reason, and just so everybody, all the listeners are aware of this, I asked you to come back on because you did something ridiculous and remarkable at the same time. Probably like dove deeper than anything else that I've ever seen. So you and I were on a call, an implementation call. We were talking about hiring.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we had walked together through developing a scorecard and then using AI. I don't remember if it was Chat or Claude or Gemini, but we used AI to create a new ad. You then did other training and took this to a whole other level, and now you're really getting a lot of traction with your ads. So can you talk a little bit about through like what made you reach for more, what those initial results, lackluster results look like, and really what you did here, because it is unreal.
Yeah, for sure. So back in the beginning, we would write ads, and my partner Mike is a big content guy. He's one of those wordsmith people that just words come naturally to him. You just put him in a corner and he just spits out essentially magic. With the evolution of AI, you can take his one paragraph and then just copy him 8 million times. But that's really how we wrote our first ads. They sounded really nice. Whether they sounded nice to our candidates or potential candidates was a giant question mark. I don't even know if it was on our mind at that point. So in our courses with Profitability Under Pressure with Chad, hiring was one of the subjects, and he offered hey, does anyone want to do a dry run with me to go through this? Super helpful, really insightful what ChatGPT put out for our job ad. And I was like, yeah, this is way better than what we got. Boom. Posted on Indeed, was super excited, and it just wasn't quite doing it. There were trickles of people, but not really a ton of applications. So Chad had mentioned, all right, swap out the titles. You got to test that. These are the grabbing pieces. So after like 4 or 5 different titles, yeah, there were differences in some of the nitty-gritty metrics, but ultimately there were pretty much crickets. Like 2 applications a week, people that didn't even graduate PT school. It was just like, what? Okay, that's what's happening here.
Yeah.
So somehow I got onto a subject or a webinar of WebPT that was advertised as retention strategies. And Chad mentioned this in plenty of conversations that we've had of like, gone are the days where you can advertise and bring someone on in 4 weeks. Good luck trying to do that in 3 months anymore. Maybe 6 months if you're lucky. So it might be worth your while to shift away from hiring, focus more on retention. That's where I got into this retention-based link. But the first half of the presentation was about prospective candidates and what they're looking for So some really insightful metrics in terms of what people are really doing with their actions and their clicks while they're navigating through these sites. And after watching it, I said, all right, none of what AI wrote is positioning what we really do in reality against these new consumer candidate demands. I said these are things that we have in place, or even if they're not in place, I have to somehow emphasize how these consumer demands show up for our clinic. And that's what I spent some time doing then, taking the rewritten ad from ChatGPT, saying, here are the new statistics. I need you to write an ad that emphasizes all of these points. Here's how we emphasize these points in our organization. Item 1, 2, 3, and 4, go. And then from there, it did everything. The flow looked way better. It definitely communicated what I was hoping for. And then I just took out paragraphs and copy pasted and said, tweak this a little bit. I needed to say more of this. Tweak that a little bit. I needed to say more of that. And then the last step for us was we put it through Hemingway app, which Chad turned me on to. Basically, how is it reading to your consumer? It might really sound really nice, but it might be super complex, and it might be maybe harder to understand, or maybe they're missing what the message you're trying to say is landing with them differently because of the complexity of the sentence. Hemingway takes that out. If you're really into it, you can sign up for their AI plan. Then you just got to click a button and it'll simplify the sentence for you. You don't even have to rewrite it.
Yeah. Nice. So we got into process a little bit. I know you and I had talked about previously purpose, principles, first before process. By the way, I did look this up, Justin. I cannot find a reference.
Yeah.
I have 3 in here, but there's 5 P's, which includes purpose, principles, process, people, and performance. But I can't find one that just anyhow. Enough of that. So somewhere along the line, you ran into this. Can you talk a little bit more about how did you distill out the purpose of your private practice? And I know you talked about your ethos, or like your really what it is that you're trying to create with your company. How did you think about that, and how does the average practice owner think about that without saying we provide the highest quality of care in our area? Because that's what most of us do, and then that box is checked and we move on without really thinking about what makes our practice, who we really are, what are our core values, et cetera. Yeah. How'd you think through
For
that?
sure. We've been fortunate enough to work with a leadership consulting team from the Table Group that helped us identify some of this. Mike and I, kind of even before that, had bits and pieces of it, but really it follows the Simon Sinek book of start with why, how, what. What you do might be provide the best care, the highest quality care. That's not why you do it. It's deeper, it's more emotional, it's qualitative, and like it should be fairly personal. And if it's your organization, that personality should show up in a lot of what you do and how you do it and the processes you create. You likely have it in there implicitly, and when you go look for it, people will tell you that it's there. So for me personally, the self-limiting beliefs mindset kills me. Like, I cannot stand when people come in and tell me they just want to walk without pain. That is a given, Joan. You're going to walk without pain. I want you to run a freaking marathon, okay? I don't push people past where they want to go in terms of extras, but it's that sort of mindset that our why is built out of. So our one sentence catchphrase mission statement is elevate people's expectations and help them realize their full potential. And it doesn't only just apply to patients, but staff, vendors, partners, chat and breakthrough. Like, I don't want to just be a one-way street. I want to elevate people around me, so then hopefully I get elevated in return, and then I can elevate my team and my patients, etc. So for me, the process of doing it was like I'd brain dump some stuff and then I'd run it by some people. And what does this feel like? Does that sound like me? Does this feel right? Is this foreign? Is this authentic? And it's just conversations and ask people to poke holes in it and give you different perspectives. And that's how we ended up at our purpose. How that purpose starts to shape all of the things that you do is now, okay, what are we trying to do with specifically with this job ad, and how do we communicate our purpose without literally saying we try to elevate people's expectations and help you realize your full potential. It is in the job ad itself. It should read like, wow, I've never seen a job ad like this. I think I can learn a lot from this organization. I think I can go far here. The purpose in general of job ads and hiring is to bring on someone who's best aligned with your organization. So that's a good starting point for what am I about to get into. And then the next piece is the principles. What principles do I have to achieve through my process? And that's really where I fell apart after the first round. Chad was super helpful in getting me started on the AI job writing and plugged it in. Perfect, cool. It just missed a lot of principle. So I didn't really understand at that point what I should be shooting for, or what is the infrastructure, I guess you could say. So my process was fine, super efficient, way better. It just kind of was going in its own direction. It wasn't aligned with the organization's purpose or the purpose of me writing this job ad. And that is really where I dug in deep and said, okay, if 60% of candidates are willing to take less money for work-life balance, how do I show those candidates that our organization in their day-to-day gives them work-life balance? And it's simple things like when you have one-on-ones, you're not going to be forced to make up that missed visit because we blocked out a treatment slot. I know for a fact other organizations will do that. Your productivity standards don't change regardless of meetings or whatever. You might just be forced to skip your lunch. Second piece of that was one-on-ones, AI documentation, right? Just cut down on doc time. We give you doc time and you have that AI software. Hopefully you don't take work home with you.
Yeah.
Better work-life balance, right? You can choose your hours. You can work 4 10s or you can work 5 8s. And if you want to get out earlier on Fridays, you have that flexibility. So those were pieces specific to our organization that I needed to emphasize. And before hopping on this call, I was thinking about it. What if you are an organization that is really performance driven, really high on productivity? How do you suggest that? Well, you can pivot that same idea. Let's say your productivity requirements are 80 visits a week for a full-time provider. That's a lot of work for the person. But work-life balance, you work hard, you play hard. So you get this incentive program because your expectations are so high. When you achieve these outcomes, here's what you get: a quarterly bonus, monthly bonus. We give you extra time off. And that's how you position that type of organization in a work-life balance scenario. If you come up, show out for 40 hours, boom, you'll get rewarded in this other way to balance that work out. So once I dove into all of those pieces and really went through paragraph by paragraph what the AI gave me and asked it, hey, this is a great start. Now make it more specific to our internal processes. specifically, we have one-on-one meetings where you don't need to make up productivity requirements. You are required to take 2 weeks of vacation, and we pay you for your vacation expenses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So
Wow.
those are elements that emphasize the work-life balance piece for us. And once we went through those principles and said, okay, here's the big kind of ideas I have to accomplish within the process, then the job ads started converting like there was no tomorrow. I mean, we went from 2 or 3 applicants a week to 4 or 5 applicants a day. And um, granted, some of them still weren't graduated from PT school, and one of those people that just checked every job under the sun. But since then, we've probably done 4 or 5 phone screens for different PTs. Um, some are still in the pipeline, great candidates. Some just didn't work out for location purposes. They're too close to the city and don't want to drive out of the city. Um, but yeah, the job ad is definitely reading more the way we want it. The current candidates are all saying, so one of our questions in the phone screen, what attracted you to this when you read the job ad? What made you hit the apply button? Almost exclusively everyone is saying the productivity requirements align with this message of a work-life balance and something that I'm looking for.
Nice.
People know, like, the salary range is on there. It's not the top of the market. You can go search in our market and you'll find 5 or 6 clinics that'll pay higher than that. It comes with the price of seeing 60 or 70 visits a week, and I think people are just kind of over that at this point.
Yeah.
It also doesn't fit with our identity. So if you are that type of therapist, more power to you. You're going to have an awesome career. You're probably amazing. That's just not really our shtick, and that's okay.
Yeah. A couple questions for you, follow-ups there. So the first one you said when you were talking about self-limiting beliefs and running your mission or your purpose by people, I'm assuming that meant patients plus team members, including clinicians, plus partners or any coaches that you brought in, anything like that across the board. Is that what you meant by people? Like when you were running?
Literally everyone, parents, families, significant others, just like anyone who knew me in any capacity, I'm running it by them. Especially
Perfect.
like long-term patients. So people that I've seen for years and years and years that come back for different body parts, super valuable from the receiver end. My team, obviously, to make sure they are in alignment with it and they're feeling the same thing. My parents and family and friends, because they know me on kind of a different side. Yeah, coaches, just I'm a sucker for more perspective. I'm just trying to open my eyes as broad as possible and what am I missing, sort of thing.
Smart. Love it. The other thing that, the second thing that you brought up that I want to talk, you invest in yourself a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one, like the seeking of many different perspectives, I think is rare. The other thing is you and Mike are very willing to invest in yourselves. How do you think through that? Because I know we were talking about Jerry Minor beforehand and Alex Hormozy, and I mean, we could go forever with Frank Kern and Russell Brunson and Dan Kennedy and Gary Vee and all these other people. How do you think about investing in yourself? Because it's it's been very fruitful for you to move forward, overcome barriers, obstacles within your practice, and create what you've created, where you're attracting all these ideal candidates. How do you think about that for your own personal journey? Has that always been there, or is that something that you've cultivated over the years?
I've always been a very driven person. Mike does a bunch of talks about motivation and whatnot, and people think you're either a motivated person or you're not. But motivation is really is a state. So it starts with a mindset. You can be motivated even if you don't feel like you're a very driven person. So those are different things. It really came when I took over the practice. It was like, I'm gravitate towards roles that are sort of a leader position, I guess. In group projects, I would generally be the controller. At some point, I was like, I don't know enough about leadership to take this organization to where it needs to be. At some point, maybe not right now, I would be the limiting factor if I choose to do nothing.
Yeah.
And that's just not something I'm comfortable with ever. Like, I refuse to be the weak link on the team that holds them back. And so that, for me, was a journey of a lot of different ways. Mostly it's seeking out blind spots from other people. I'm one of those people, like, when I'm telling you stuff, I'm not generally looking to be consoled. I'm looking for alternate perspectives. Or did you think about it like this? Or did you try that? That's just how my brain works. So when I couldn't get that from friends and family and people around me, I'd go find like-minded clinician practice owners. When I couldn't get it from there, I'd go seek out outside consultants. And as a side tangent, but the thing that led us to the leadership consultants in the first place, I've read a whole bunch of Patrick Lencioni's books. There's one called Silos, Politics, and Turf Wars. Read it. Cool. I like his writing style. I was like, yeah, I could see how this could be a thing. I should probably start to look at that. And I kid you not, the next day we had an admin meeting. And this was when we were running in-person workshops back in 2019. 50 people would attend a shoulder rotator cuff workshop. We'd have 20 consult requests or eval requests. And we're sitting with the admin team trying to figure out what the problem was. One of the people said, "That's not my job. That's Scott's job."
Yeah.
I was like, "You are the same exact role. You gotta be kidding me." Like, your role is to get people on the schedule. It is literally the central part of your role. How are you saying that's not your job? And it was at that moment that I realized I have a very big silo problem. I don't know how it came about. I could have sworn I was doing everything right.
Yeah.
Somehow, some way, we miscommunicated that or made it misunderstood. That's what led to us bringing in the table group and doing all of this work and sort of breaking down these walls and talking about communication. And then just door after door after door opens up for self-learning of, like, you realize, oh, there's a giant hill of stuff I don't know. There's another giant hill of stuff I don't know. Let me just take one of these mountains at a time.
Yeah. A lot in there to unpack. The investing in self and realizing, having that awareness that, usually we, the leader, the director, the owner, the founder, that typically we're the bottleneck, right? We're the reason that really the group is failing or succeeding. The buck stops with us. That is very good awareness. I want to get back into principles. Anything else? Again, just for everybody that's listening, purpose. We talked through that and how you tested that. You got a lot into principles. Anything else in principles that you have within your ad or in writing the ad that helps you attract the right candidate and repel the wrong candidate that you think would be beneficial for owners to hear, Justin?
Yeah, certainly you need to know your identity. You have to know exactly what kind of avatar you're trying to bring into the organization, and you need to be okay with having a lower absolute number, but a higher rate of really qualified people in there. So if that's ambiguous or vague to you, that would be the starting point. Like, sit with your team and really paint a picture of what is the perfect person here. If you work with a PTA team, you need someone who's really good at communicating treatment plans and has like treatment styles, et cetera, et cetera. We don't use PTAs, but we are interested in people being able to really modify patients' activities outside of here. So I need you to be able to go out to someone's car, adjust their car seat, know how to work all the buttons and set their position up so their lumbar spine isn't a problem when they're driving. If you aren't the kind of person who's ever going to do that, you're just not going to work with our organization. So, identity for sure. Then you have to know the industry demands right now. And that's the piece that I was missing. We were clear on our avatar. We just didn't really know what people were wanting. And therefore, it wasn't upfront in your face. Like, there's no way you would miss this message now.
Yeah. A couple things. I know with the evolution of how not only have I done advertising on Indeed and, in the LinkedIn and the marketplace, but that has definitely changed over the years. We've always tried to name exactly who it is that we want to attract. What I've seen you do in reading through your ads, by the way, for all the listeners, Justin did something absolutely amazing for you. He put together a 73-page PDF that we'll have in the show notes for everybody, talking about the process of really how you went through and how you crafted your own ad, what you learned. You have specific examples in there. It's beautiful. It's a lot of work. Thanks for doing that. With that ad, I always thought it, like, the huge breakthrough for me was just saying, okay, if I waved the magic wand and I named exactly the therapist that I wanted to apply for this position, what would that person look like? And that was a really big change for us at the time. I think that is a component of it. But again, marrying that up with what the marketplace wants and needs right now, with like what you've done with work-life balance, with leading that with, you have it directly in your headline, and you have a lot in your headline. Probably the most detailed headline I've read I've read a couple thousand Indeed ads, by far the best headline that I've seen so far. And yes, we did change our ad immediately, Justin. So thank you for that. Really good stuff there. Anything else along the lines of, without getting too much into the process of how to, or into that 73-page PDF, anything else along the lines of principles that you found that's very helpful in constructing that ad and bringing in the right candidate?
Yeah, I think with the use of AI, you can, it kind of goes back to the example that I said before. If you are a clinic that is built on volume and numbers, and you have a corporate structure that's saying you got to meet these targets, period, I don't care how you do it, that doesn't mean that your people aren't going to have a work-life balance. You just need to find a message that showcases how that's possible in such a high volume environment. That's where AI comes in. You just literally give it the prompt. Here's my clinic. We're driven on performance. We're a big numbers team. How do I showcase and emphasize our ability to provide work-life balance? Boom. And then it gives you something. It probably spurs a train of thought for you. And now you have some content that you can emphasize in your job ad that applies to you specifically. And there are people out there that want to go, and just crush it. They will find you and they will say, this is the place I want to be. And there are people that are like that read our ad and they're like, I'm going to be bored as you know what here. It's just not fast enough. Yeah.
Let's talk about AI for a second. You're not afraid to use it, which is wonderful. What have you learned in terms of, I'm very focused recently on prompt engineering. I find the more that I give it, if I give it 8 paragraphs and I'm very detailed in my prompt, I get a much better output. What have you learned there? What are you looking at in terms of getting better outcomes from your AI experience?
Yeah. So I follow a whole bunch of blogs and media posts that give you ideas for prompts. So that's kind of always happening in the background. I've gone really, really deep. So I used chat we have, let me back up. We have growth tracks. Within those growth tracks are all the levels of each track. Within those levels, you have all of your competencies. Within
This is
each
this
competence,
is education for your team. Is
yeah,
what you're
this
talking
is internal growth tracks. Like, how do you move from staff PT to senior PT to assistant team leader, et cetera, et cetera. Each one of those competencies has definitions, bullet points. Here's what it means. Here's what it looks like at this level relative to this level. We made that all by hand years ago. Took forever. Ton of manual work. I spent a few hours plugging all them into ChatGPT, said, expand this for me, poke holes, where am I missing, make this comprehensive and more actionable, more tangible for the person reading it. Started off amazing. I mean, we're talking like 40 competencies at each level in each track. We got 16 different tracks, 5 different levels of peace. Like,
about.
so it got to a point where it was just spitting out nonsense. Like,
Yeah.
so what I've ultimately come to find out, and I think there's actually some news articles showing this now, that if you give it too much content, it just gets lost, and now it's actually making stuff up that isn't. And I tell it that's not right at all. That's not what I want. I said I wanted the exact same thing as you did last time. This is nothing like that. So there's a fine line between how much one thread can hold and where you have to make sure it's not over promising and stuff. But for sure, you can't give it one sentence. I always give it a persona, act like this person or act like this position. And then I was actually just talking to my leadership team about it. For anyone that's read the book Dare to Lead by Brene Brown, there's a concept in there called painting done. And the more clear you can paint the picture for the person, the more likely they are to understand where the thought processes come from and where you want to get to. That's all you're doing with a prompt. You want to paint it as vividly as you can.
Yeah.
Once you do that, it should probably give you the answer that you want. Just be careful not to paint 100 pictures at the same time.
Yeah, that's great advice. Couple of things that mirror what you're saying there. I know on X, formerly Twitter, I just have folders. I have an AI folder where I do nothing but grab exactly what you're talking about, the prompts,
Mhm.
and here's 10 prompts that I use in Claude, and I just
Yeah.
snap that over into the folder. The other thing that I ask it repeatedly is if it starts hallucinating, which is what you're talking about, where it makes up answers. I'll just ask it to explain it to my 11-year-old daughter. And that process of simplification typically eliminates all that fritter. And it's a much better process there. Cool, man. So yeah, we'll put that link for the PDF in the show notes here. Any other words of wisdom before we sign off here? How can people learn more about you, see what you're up to in the world, Justin?
Yeah, my email is the best way to get a hold of me, jpez17@gmail.com. My work email just forwards to that anyway. Certainly feel free to text me, Google my name, it's all over the internet, it's fine. Email, text, Instagram is just personal, I'm never on it. You can certainly Instagram me, but it'll be like 12 days before I get back to you. Quick note about the PDF. We've mentioned it a couple times on the podcast, but if you're listening and you're like, all right, that's all sounds really nice, but literally, how do I do it? We didn't spend too much time here talking about it because it's written out verbatim in the PDF. I have what our job ad looked like before me and Chad worked together, what it looked like after Chad and I worked together, and then what it looked like after I spent some time refining it with the industry trends. I also give you all of the prompts that I used to refine paragraphs, to tell it what I wanted in the beginning. The only thing that's not in there is the Hemingway the last piece of sticking it in Hemingway app and just seeing what it reads like.
Yeah. Love it. Awesome, man. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, of course. My pleasure.